At first, he was an enigma. Who is Pablo Mari? Well, after the last 4 or 5 games, we know that he definitely has a quality the Arsenal defence have been looking for. Welcome to the Highbury Squad's Lockdown Series Volume 2, Episode 4. The player profile. Tonight, it's Pablo Mari. All right. Welcome to the Highbury Squad. Listen, we know you're a good-looking guy, but why don't we get rid of your ugly mug? Because it's so good-looking. And we've got another good-looking guy on deck tonight, Mr. Super Kevin Campbell.
Well, good to be back. And for another player profile, I'm loving these, by the way. I really do. I like these.
Me too, Super Kev. I like them a lot. And thank you once again for joining me. It's a start to another great week here on the Highbury Squad with our lockdown series content. Good evening, everybody who is in chat. And good evening, everybody who is going to be joining us on replay.
I'm getting hot here.
You doing what I did the other night? You're taking your jacket off already.
But I've got no pictures to put up like you had in your back pocket. I got no pictures. Jeez.
Just let me know what you need, Casey, and I'll always have something ready for you.
Do you know what I need? I needed a cold towel the other day because you know what? I was having nightmares when I fell asleep.
I love it. Good evening to everyone in the chat as well. And yes, he is a top class defender. And yes, we are impressed with his calm and composed demeanor. And always good to have Super Kev back in action. He will never miss the action, Super Kev. All right, Super Kev. Pablo Mari. Here's what I love about Arsenal fans, and I say this with the utmost respect, and I think you know where I'm coming from.
I know where you're going to go.
Do you just want to answer my question? And just
I could just answer your question straight away.
Do it, Casey.
1 minute they didn't know him, they hate him. Oh, he's not good enough. He's not this and that. All of a sudden, he's composed. Look at him. He's unbelievable. We knew he was going to be good. Rubbish, Arsenal fans. I know. Who is he? We're signing him. Who is he?
And let's be honest, Casey, how many of the Arsenal fans, and God bless all of you, we love each and every one of you, whether we agree or disagree, but how many of them even knew who he was when we signed him?
They had no idea.
They had no idea.
They had no idea.
No idea whatsoever.
Here's one for you, Sophie. No, here's one for you. This is really important. He came in because of who? Who brought him in?
Well, Edu brought him in.
So let me see if somebody's going to give Edu some credit.
But hold on 1 second, because Arteta deserves credit too. Because
hold on. We're going to get to that.
Okay, we'll get to that in the storytelling.
We're going to get to that. But remember, at one stage they were talking about Edu, Willian, and Louise. You know, they're a trio. They're looking to break the club. What's going on, Arsenal fans?
Right. Let's not forget that he also brought in a couple good players that people are loving right now. 100%, Super Kev, 100%. All right, let's get stuck into this then, you guys. So bear with me. Because
Mark. I knew Murray would be a great player. Get out of it, Mark.
I love them. That. Don't you just love them so much, Casey? They love you so much.
I'm waiting for Newman to play on it now.
Yeah, he's where's Newman trying to claim it? Yeah,
he's played with him.
I know Pablo Mari and you know, it's the same way how everyone thinks they know Upamecano. We have to sign him. You know, we have to sign Usain Aouar. I mean, come on. How much do you guys watch these guys play? You don't. You just don't. So let's just and Amesy, very honest. I was clueless. That's the kind of Arsenal fan we like.
Honest, right there. That's nice and honest.
Absolutely. All right. So let's get stuck into the story here, because there's a juxtaposition that I kind of want to follow a little bit with Pablo Mari, Casey. And a lot of it all starts, you know, with his movement, right, from club to club. I love players like this because KC, a little bit like Jamie Vardy. I think one of the reasons why some people are irritated by him, but they all respect his journey. Ian Wright, okay, lower leagues, fought their way up, showed what they had. And there's something about this story that makes you kind of buy into it and believe in it and root for it. So let's go to the very beginning. He started his career at Mallorca and was part of their youth system. He spent several seasons in the third division there. And he went to a team called Gymnastic after that. And I'm probably pronouncing it incorrectly because it's probably something like
Gymnastic.
Gymnastic, okay.
Gymnastic, yes.
Yeah, who were also in the lower tier in the level that he was playing. But here's the scoop. You have to remember how many players, KC, and I want you to touch on this before we move forward. The scouting system across Europe, across all clubs, the way that guys go out, women go out, no matter what, to find the next great talent. And they look at all these lower leagues from La Liga to Eredivisie to Bundesliga to Serie A, League One, League Two. And he was impressive enough when he was playing in that third tier to have Manchester United come calling. As a player, City, sorry. As a player, talk us through that a little bit in terms of playing such lower leagues, but knowing that one day, someday, a big club is going to come to watch you play. What does that mean?
Well, I think I could only speak about the journey I went on. I can't really tell you exactly what it's like that. But when I was at Arsenal as a kid, and to get game time, I went on loan to the old fourth division with Leyton Orient, and you're playing. You're playing murder ball. That's what you're playing. You are playing murder ball because it is so different down there than what you're used to. You know, from the pitches you play at, from the clubs you go to, the amenities, the discipline, everything's kind of different. But you still have to have your wits about you. Don't forget this guy. He's obviously coming up through lower league, but he's got one thing going for him. He's a left footer, centre half, and they are premium. So really, realistically, if he's half decent, someone's going to take a chance on him. Now, Manchester obviously watched him and they thought to themselves, you know what? Let's take a punt on him because they've got nothing to lose, everything to gain, Sophie. So as a left-footed centre half, Manchester City said, right, we're going to do the business, and they went and got him. And I think he was at Man City for 3 years or something.
He was at Man City for 3 years, and this is where I'll pick up for you, KC, because you bring up a really good point, and you talk about going to Leyton Orient and going to teams like that. We've seen a lot of Arsenal players go to some really good clubs where they've learnt their craft. So Jeff de Bresser, who was the manager at NAC Breda, which is the Eredivisie club where Pablo Mari went to play. Here's what I want everyone to know. And I'm going to read you some stuff from a phenomenal, I thought phenomenal might be a big word, but I loved it. It was an article that I found on Pablo Mari that Adam Bate and you can follow Adam at Ghost Goal on Twitter. But Adam Bate from Sky wrote a really great in-depth article once we picked him up and spoke to a couple of key journalists as well in South America. And so I'm going to reference, Adam's article here that he wrote for Sky. And one of the quotes that they got was from Jeff de Bresser from NAC Breda. And what he said is he impressed us from the very beginning. Bresser told Sky Sports. In pre-season, he came in as a foreign guy, and within 5 weeks, we decided that he should be captain of the team. He was open-minded and eager to learn. He was a real professional. He was defensively good and good at building from the back. That season was important for his development because he played over 30 games. We stayed up, but it was a struggle, so there was often a lot of pressure on the defense. It helped him make the next step. And KC, you talk about all the time players like Joe Willock needing to go out again, Reece Nelson, even Balogun. You can't be rewarded until you've tried to build your way up to the reward. And Pablo Mari here, going from, Spain, Mallorca, he's trying to find his way, goes to City. It's not really happening there for him. He ends up in Eredivisie, and he ends up being captain of a team where they believe in him, and he's made an immediate impression.
Do you know what that says about the guy? That says about the guy, he's strong-minded, he's sensible, he's smart, and he knows what he's doing, Sophie. This is the type of player we love, because a player who knows what he's about. He's not easily ruffled. He can go into the trenches, as proven. He's battled relegation before, been captain, and got them through the fire. This is really important, because unfortunately, that's why I say some of these youngsters have to go on loan, and they really have to go through that fire. They have to walk through that fire, because it's all very well being part of an Arsenal squad and you get games in the Europa League here and there. But to be a professional, you've got to play week in, week out.
Yeah.
You've got to play week in, week out. And if you're not the type of person who likes to play week in, week out, you shouldn't be involved with Arsenal Football Club.
Completely agree. Now, I'm going to come back to this because it's very important, because we get so many comments in chat and I don't want to lose them. But everyone mark this one from Newman. We're a little premature. Let's see how Mari deals with pressure when we're close to getting in the Champions League or playing more important games. Gave away a pen against Chelsea. Yes, of course. But that was his first big mistake. But let's not forget what he's done to make up for that mistake. And we've had clean sheets with him in the team. So we're going to come back to Newman, Casey, unless you want to address this right now.
He always puts his foot in it, him.
He does. So here's where I want to go next, because, here's what I love about him. In his loan spells, he went to Deportivo La Coruña, Super Kev, and he had the opportunity to take Deportivo back to La Liga, and he had an opportunity to convert a goal. I think it was a header. And what I like about him, is that he's been in adversity situations. He's been in situations where he had an impact and a positive impact at Deportivo, but also in the moment where they needed him, to kind of make and mark his moment. He was not at his best, and he failed, and they put that on him. They went into the second promotion leg playoff against Mallorca. They had a 2-goal lead, and they collapsed to a 3-goal defeat. And one away goal would have been enough to seal promotion for them. The ball came to him, and unfortunately he wasn't able to convert. So what I like about him too, Casey, is as he was lauded at NAC when he was in Eredivisie, he went to Deportivo and he suffered. And then talk to me about that a little bit, because then the next part of his journey, once again, is a journey of rising. And this is what I like about Pablo Mari. This is one of the qualities I'm endeared to him, is that he's fallen and he's risen. And I think that's really important as a player, especially when you're going out on loan when another team doesn't believe in you.
Well, if you're going to build a career, you're going to have to deal with adversity. You have to. And that's why I want a lot of these youngsters to go out on loan, because they got it too cushy at Arsenal. I think Pablo Mari, he's been through the fire. This is what I call the fire. You have to go through the fire to then become a seasoned professional. When you're a seasoned professional, you know what it takes. You know when to roll your sleeves up. You're fine in any, and I mean any situation, because you've been through so much in your career. And he's done it. He's been through the fire. And he slowly built himself up to be a very, very good centre-back.
And
reliable.
And not only that, but he's built himself up to these moments. And I think that's what's really important when we're talking about players who play for Arsenal Football Club. Okay. So he left Deportivo, and as Adam says in his article, and he's spoken to a couple of key journalists like Eric Torres, a Rio-based journalist as well, about his move to Flamenco. And, you know, he'd come from the Spanish second division. Flamenco fans and journalists didn't really know much about him, as Adam says in his article. But there was a Portuguese coach called Jorge Jesus, who I don't really know too much about, Casey. I don't know if you know too much about him, but obviously Flamenco were chasing their first Brazilian title in a decade, as well as competing in the Copa Libertadores, which I don't think they had won for 30 years. And you look at our boy here, ended up going to Flamenco, having a massive impact. Fans fell in love with him, Super Kev. The adoration for Pablo Mari was vast. And I think this is what Arsenal fans are doing right now. They're seeing a winner. They're seeing somebody who has what it takes to have the confidence, the bravado, but also come into a league they don't even know. And I believe he may have even been the first Spanish player to win the Copa Libertadores in a long time. But one of the things, too, that they highlight in this article is his statistics, his aerial ability, the fact that he was able to impose his physique, that he set himself apart with his distribution of the ball. They talked about his left foot, and the fact that he was able to take this team in Brazil, a globally beautifully followed, renowned team, Super Kev, and give them their first trophy in years and years. And he was part of that experience. Again, we see the fall, not being able to start for City. You go to NAC, you fall at Deportivo, and then you go to Flamenco, and you're an absolute hero. Incredible.
Again, that's all the building blocks of the foundation of the player. You know, he's been high, he's been low, he's been high again. So this is what builds him up. This is what the seasoning of the player means. So whether you take him from there and you put him in Arsenal's first team, he can handle it. And let's be honest, Sophie, we're probably I just want to touch on this because I'm sure we're going to deal with this a little bit further on. He comes in, his start wasn't great at Arsenal. He played, he was half fit when he played, got injured.
Here it is, injured right here.
Yeah, got injured, and he was only half fit really because he'd only just come to the club. He'd hardly played. He got into the team and after the restart, wasn't it? And you know, it was a difficult time for him. But what did he do? He kept quiet. He knuckled down. Mikel Arteta signed him. And that's another thing. Mikel Arteta signed him full-time in the summer. Built him up. He trained, built himself up. He waited patiently. You never hear anything about him throwing toys out the pram in the background or whatever. Gets his opportunity, Sophie. First game, Chelsea at home with the firepower they've got. And really, him and what's his name? Holding. Yeah. Bossed it. They bossed they controlled the Chelsea strikers, Timo Werner, etc. They controlled them. Yeah, he gave away a penalty, but he's going to get tired come the end. It's his first game.
And he was injured. He came back. I mean, his injury kind of also ended up being worse than it was originally anticipated, right, Casey?
Yeah.
I want to take you back a minute, though, before we get to his Arsenal stuff. Because everyone says then, okay, so he was at City, he went to Girona, he went to Gymnastique, he played for Deportivo, he went to Flamengo. But then we saw the coming of age of Pablo Mari. And that game, you guys, if you haven't seen it, you should go back and watch it now that we know a little bit more about him. But that was in the World Club Cup final where he actually really shone. And
he was brilliant. I watched it.
Right, Casey? He was
brilliant.
He was absolutely brilliant. And he literally had Salah and the rest of Liverpool in his pocket. And here's why. He won 7 of his defensive duels. He won all 3 of his challenges in the air in that game. He made 5 key interceptions and he completed 85% of his 81 passes. And even Liverpool players were talking about him afterwards in terms of what he did and what he had achieved in that game. And KC, that was the game that really marked it in terms of people taking notice. And at the time, we had already nabbed the guy. We were lucky.
Well, you know, what a lot of people tend to do is they watch and say, like, let's see how he gets on against Liverpool. I could imagine everyone was looking, let's see how he gets on against Liverpool. But I remember watching that game and he was outstanding. He really was. And you know what? He's not rapid.
No.
But you know what he is? He's quick here.
Yes.
And when you're quick there, he never gets done for pace. When a player's quick here, you never get done for pace because you're reading everything so quick.
Mm-hmm.
And because he reads it so well, and he's a talker. I remember being at Brighton and hearing, you know, he's talking to Rob Holding. And that's made Rob Holding calm down. It's made Rob Holding calm down that much, Sophie. He signed a new contract.
Right.
He's got a new contract. So, you know, he's doing something right. This guy is the ultimate in cool at the back. He did keep Salah, Mane, and Firmino very quiet. You know, he was outstanding. He didn't really put a foot wrong.
Yeah.
In the World Club Cup final. So I think it was good business, Arsenal signing him. And you know what? There's times where we can play a free at the back.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the left side. Gabriel in the middle.
Hold on, I'm going to get to that because there's a lot of fans that are asking questions to you, Casey, about this double left-footed CB situation, and I want to get to that next. But before I do, Mikel Arteta believed in him from the get-go. And his old coach, who I mentioned earlier, Bresser from NAC, says he would need some time in the Premier League. For almost any player coming from another country, the pace of the Premier League would be a challenge at first. But I'm sure that he would adjust to this level as he has done so every single time before. And by that, Casey, he means no matter the league, whether he's played in Eredivisie, whether he's played in the Portuguese league or he's played in La Liga or whatever, he's been able to adapt. And as a former professional, you can tell us more than ever. You went from the Premier League to Turkey. Completely different situation. You have to be adaptable. You have to have a strong mindset and you have to be willing to maybe make some changes to not only how you approach things, but how you play the game in a different league, culture and country.
100%. And again, the building blocks that he's had since he was young, he hasn't been frightened to leave Spain, come to England, didn't get a kick at Manchester City. Let's have it right. He didn't get a kick. And that destroys a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But he didn't. He dusted himself down and went and he got himself together. So one thing we do know, Pablo Mari is flexible, he's smart, and he's very adaptable. He's a good player. Okay. Bring him into an environment of the Premier League at Arsenal where, let's be honest, we've been awful at the back for quite a while. We have been awful. Now, Mikel Arteta's got a problem, which is fantastic.
Okay, so let's get into that a little bit because over the last couple of days, Mikel Arteta, rightly so, has been very positive about Mari. And I want to read a couple of the gaffer's comments to you. We'd thrown him in because we had some injuries and suspensions. It probably wasn't really fair for him because he'd missed a lot of football in the last year. And as we know, KC was overcoming injury. Sometimes we've been known to, every team throws in players maybe
take a risk. You've got to take the risk sometimes.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But this is what I love in terms of what Mikel says. He's a leader. He's someone that trains really hard. He's a professional, a great communicator on the pitch, and he gives you some security and stability. I think he's done really well with Rob Holding. He was really good again today with David Luiz. 3 clean sheets in a row, and he fully deserves the chance to play. He's really positive when he wasn't playing and when he was injured. He's the same person all the time, trying to help everybody, really professional, really eager to improve and give his best in any capacity and any role. I think he's getting rewarded for his attitude. Another phenomenal mark for Pablo Mari. And one of the things I've loved seeing about him, Casey, that I wanted to get your take on is moments like this. And exactly what Mikel has said. And I want you to talk about this too, as someone who's been captain of Everton. You've been captain in your career, taking younger players under your wing. And even when you're injured, is still trying to find positives. And this moment where he hugged Gabby after he got injured, unfortunately, again, where everyone was really, really sad to hear about that. But to see him already in moments like this at Arsenal Football Club, here he is with legend Robert Pires as well. It seems like he's ingrained himself in the culture already, but at the same time, this leadership that Mikel talks about across the board is fundamentally important. And you've been there before from the player profile perspective, Casey.
Yeah, well, again, we talk about building a culture, experienced players looking after the younger ones. And Mikel Arteta did mention after Brighton, I think I've mentioned it after speaking to him, that having the right professionals helping these young players is the key. And it really is the key. Not any experienced player, the right experienced players. And I think Pablo Mari is one of them. You know, I think he's kind of one who's gone under the radar of that leadership because we really haven't seen him play much. But I think now we're starting to understand he is a leader, and he's more vocal than I actually thought, to be honest, Sophie.
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
He was more vocal. He was more vocal than I thought. Because, you know, when you watch on TV, you don't see it. But when I was there, I was watching him, and he's very vocal. He was talking to Rob Holding. And Rob Holding, let's be honest, Rob Holding's calmed down at the back there.
Yeah.
He's a lot calmer at the back there. And I think a lot of credit has to go to Pablo Mari for that. But here's the other important thing. The way he interacts with the manager, the way he interacts with the players. We need more players like him who will help the culture. Because we've got too many players who are looking out for themselves. We need more players who are selfless, gives no problems, and buys into whatever Mikel Arteta wants to do. And that's how we get movement as a squad moving forward.
Do you know who he reminds me of? Not in the style of play, Super Kev, but there's something about him that reminds me of Paolo Maldini in that quiet leadership. That not so. Paolo Maldini was never a big one for press or PR, yet he could have been. He was one of the greatest left backs that's ever played the game. He had this elegance about the way he played. He wasn't really super pacey, but he was definitely.
Do you want to bet he was?
Oh,
do you want
to bet?
Listen, listen, don't.
Which year?
I've got to say, when we played AC Milan at Highbury.
I love this. Yeah.
In the Super Cup. And their back four was Tassotti.
Oh. Baresi.
Tassotti, Costa Curta, Baresi, and Maldini.
Was Baresi playing the sweeper?
Well, he was playing. Well, they were playing 4-4-2. But that Baresi, I'm telling you, I've never played against a back. I played against Arsenal's back four, but I've never played against a back four like this one.
Wow.
He used to drop 15 yards deeper than everybody else. So we're thinking to ourselves, hold on a minute.
He never had the pace to make that up.
No, but hold on a minute. We're thinking, we're in here. And as a pass would go, he would fly up the pitch. We're scrambling to try and stay on side. The ball gets played offside. We're like, what's going on there? He used to do it all the time. All the time. But you see, whenever we got by them, Tassotti, Costa Curta, and Maldini, let me tell you, you say not pacey, he never got beat. I could tell you that for nothing.
You know what I mean, though, about not pacey, but his mind beat so many players all the time, Casey. And that's what I'm not comparing Pablo Mari to him at all by any stretch.
Sophie.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I've seen him make up
feet
5 yards in 15 yards.
Wow.
and get the tackling. I've seen it with my own eyes. I'm thinking, I know he's good, but I didn't realize he was that good. He's that quick.
I don't think
on the recovery. He's quick on the recovery. I'm telling you, he's very good.
You know what, Super Kev? I don't think players realized how good that Milan team was until they played them. You heard about them, but you didn't. They're the type of team where you heard about them, but you didn't know how good they were.
Well, we wanted to pit our wits against them because obviously we've got a back four as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've got a great back four, back five.
No doubt.
And they've got the best in Europe. So it's like, okay. And the game at Highbury was like just cancelling each other out. You know what I mean? It was just cancelling each other out. So, it was a great battle of the minds.
Of the minds. So that's what I'm saying. Like, do you think there's a chance, right, in football that so much has been about pace lately going forward and playing out of the back, right? Obviously, that started with from Johan Cruyff to it moved on from the Ajax and total football to Barcelona and tiki-taka, and Pep evolved that and transitioned that. And now even teams like Burnley or lower position teams are playing out the back, and it's become almost a pandemic in football.
Sophie, hold on a minute. No, Sophie, hold on. No, Sophie. Yeah, but Sophie, hold on a minute. Don't forget, back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, that Liverpool side used to play total football. Bink, 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 bink. Used to pass you off the pitch.
I know they did, but they couldn't. You could pass back to the goalkeeper and you could pick it up, and it was a little bit different passing from the back.
No, but because what I'm saying is,
you had respite.
Pass.
Yeah, no doubt. Listen, this is why I always laugh when people talk about heavy metal football. What's it called? The press. Excuse me. It's just like marketing in my business. You use new buzzwords that communicate shit people have been doing for years.
Of course,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Right. Okay. So I'm happy you agree with that, because for me, Pablo Mari is a bit of a throwback defender with a modern day mentality. And maybe you can help me articulate that to our listeners, KC, because I think of Baresi, I think of Maldini, I even think of Adams. And Mertesacker, in a sense, was maybe the last of the dying breed of that in the Premier League. John Terry, to a certain extent, he never always had pace, but he always had good positioning. In his early career, he had great pace, but later on, it was his mind that helped him play for another 2 to 3 years. Can you help me and help the listeners understand? Is Pablo Mari a throwback? Am I reading that wrong?
No, I don't think you are. I think the readers of the game are a thing of the past. They are. There's not many good readers. I think the person I would, and he reminds me of, he isn't like him, but he reminds me of Alan Hansen at Liverpool. Because Alan Hansen was very good on the ball, good passer, could play out from the back, but his positioning was always fantastic. Obviously, he had a great partnership with Mark Lawrenson. Mark Lawrenson was kind of the person who would clean up a lot of the stuff. But Alan Hansen was so gifted on the ball. He can play. He can come out with the ball. I've seen Pablo Mari do that. He comes out. The only difference is Alan Hansen was a right footer and Pablo Mari's a left footer.
Okay, so let's get to that. Because a lot of the questions coming up in chat, and thanks to everyone who's joining us in chat right now. We've got a multi-hundred strong audience going. We really appreciate you joining us on this Monday night. This is our Lockdown Series, Volume 2, Episode 4. We're talking about Pablo Mari as part of our Player Profile Series here with Super Kevin Campbell. So, a lot of the questions coming in, Super Kev, and you're the only one that can answer this, because in my mind is, if two CBs who are right-footed can play together, why can't two CBs who are left-footed play together? And the biggest concern for Arsenal fans is Gabriel and Pablo Mari might not be able to play together. Let's talk about that. Can you talk us through that a little bit? Because in my opinion, if you're good-footed, you're good enough to play. And from what I've seen from Gabriel Mari, the control distribution is good either way. And I think they can combat each other. But can you talk us through why some folks have these concerns and whether they're valid or not?
Well, they have concerns because it's not something that usually happens. You know, usually the centre halves are one's a left footer and one's a right footer, or they're two right footers. But that dispels the mindset of what they're saying about the left footers, doesn't it? Because if two righties can play together, why can't two lefties?
Why?
Tony Adams was no. I said it dispels the fact.
Yeah.
But it's because they're so used to two right-footed players. Remember, Tony Adams played on the left-hand side and he was a right footer. Steve Bold played on the right centre half. Tony Adams played on the left and he was a right footer. So it's the same. So it's still, getting it onto his left foot and playing a pass or whatever. But if you're a good player, you can do it. And Pablo Mari and Gabriel can do it.
Doesn't that happen? Doesn't that happen a lot with flank players too, Casey? They interchange left, right. I mean, we've seen that all the time throughout the age of football, haven't we? We've seen left backs and right. We've seen versatile right backs who can play left backs. I mean, even our own Cedric Soares to even a Yang Vertonghen, for example.
Well, Maitland-Niles.
Maitland-Niles.
Right back, left back.
Right back, left back. So why is this the biggest conundrum? Why, if you're picking,
it's not the biggest conundrum.
Okay,
it's just, sorry, darling. It's just that fans don't usually see two left footers together. That's all.
Yeah.
That's why they're not sure because it's awkward.
Right.
But they can play.
Right. I want to touch on what Kevin Jean's saying here too, because one of the things I was going to say about Casey brought up that he didn't get a lick for Manchester City. And I talked about where he went on loan when he was at Manchester City. And Kevin, you're 100% right. When you look at Pep's record and Manchester City's record at signing CBs, or the failure that they've had even since Vincent Kompany and trying to replace Vincent Kompany. Okay, there are a couple players coming good right now. One that they bought maybe 4 or 5 seasons ago. Super Kev, it doesn't always mean that a player who's failed at a previous club or not had a shot at a previous club can't make it a new club. Look at what happened to Kevin De Bruyne and Salah under Jose Mourinho at Chelsea and what they've gone on to achieve.
Yeah, of course. Look, but again, it's having the opportunity and having a manager who's going to try and put the player in the best possible environment so we can flourish. Obviously, there's been different players at Manchester City. There's been players who they've brought in who have gone missing, haven't they? And it's not just 160 million. There's more than that. There's a lot more than that they've spent.
There is.
There is. So a lot more than that. It doesn't always work out, but it can work out if you believe in the player and you can create the environment where he can flourish.
100%. Look, they didn't give up on John Stones, and look what kind of a season he's having now, Casey. Like, confidence is everything in a player, right?
What's all this about him becoming the next Baresi? Who said that?
So hold on a second. Shiro, we were talking about really beautiful defenders and defenders who have a smart football brain. We weren't comparing or saying anyone's becoming Baresi. So I wanted to put this up so Super Kev could just jump in right here and just defend.
Giro, behave yourself, will you? Behave yourself. I mentioned I played against that AC Milan side.
Exactly, yeah.
And with Baresi in it, and I was actually talking about Maldini on the cover and how we never got beat. So stop your noise, Shiro. Come on, mate.
Enjoy the anecdote from Super Kev. Just enjoy the stories. Seriously. The fact that he played against that Milan defense, my goodness, we should just do an entire show and breaking down that game.
Well, we played them twice. We went over to the San Siro.
Listen, yeah, exactly. And Newman, quiet. I didn't compare him. I didn't say he was similar to Maldini. I said he reminded me of the intelligence of Maldini.
Thank you.
You guys are off to a really good start this Monday, by the way. Keep it up, chat. I love it. You guys are rocking it right now. All right. So, KC, one of the things that's coming in from a lot of folks, and I want to try and find this one from Gun DeKagan. Let's not dismiss Holdinho too quickly. He signed a new deal, extension. He's a good defender. Listen, there's a reason why he's excelling, because he's playing alongside better players. Whether you think David Luiz is good or not, he's better than Mustafi and Sokratis. So Holding's elevated there. And then when you put him next to someone like Pablo Mari, he's matched with probably one of the best defenders he's played with in his career and at his best games, which is Mertesacker, who we've talked about from that football intelligence. Again, Super Kev. So no one is giving up on Holding. Holding still plays a huge part in this team alongside Pablo Mari, correct? Super Kev?
Of course, yeah. Clean sheets. They've done the clean sheets, haven't they? They've looked a lot better. Holding has improved, which is good. I think that's the key. There were times where he looked shaky. Remember, he was nearly on his way on loan to Newcastle at the start of the season.
Yep.
And we've had our blips, we've had our tough times. But I must say, the partnership with Holding and Pablo Mari has been a decent one, to be honest. For 4 wins, 3 clean sheets, you can't knock that one.
I mean, it works both ways, doesn't it, Super Kev? If you have players playing up front and scoring, like most of us feel that Lacazette should continue playing right now, and Aubameyang, whether he's dropped or not, no one's going to be disappointed because he's not playing that great. But you've got to play what's in front of you. This is a really good question here, Kev. Can Mari and Gabriel play together as left footers? We've answered that. Of course they can. But how do you see? I wanted to follow up from that, because how do you see Arteta choosing his starting 2? Is it going to be Gabriel and Holding, or is it going to be Gabriel and Mari?
I don't know. But this is the type of decision that a manager wants. It's a problem that a manager wants. When you got your most consistent centre half coming back after COVID issues, and you got the 2 players who are currently in the positions with clean sheets behind them. Fantastic! What a fantastic problem to have. Mari and Gabriel can play together. Of course they can.
What do you think he's going to do?
I don't know what he's going to do.
What would you do, Casey? What would you do? I'll ask that.
Well, keep it as it is.
So keep Pablo Mari right now playing with Holding.
Yeah.
And let Gabriel morph his way back into the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a fair shout. I really do. And I think Holding's earned it. And I think that the same thing with why we didn't want Lacazette to be dropped, as we said. You got to keep it all rolling, right? But here's the good thing with Pablo Mari, and this is the player profile, the Highbury Squad Lockdown Series, Volume 2, Episode 4. We've got Super Kev here helping us analyze Pablo Mari and our player profile. We have just 5 more minutes left here. If you have any additional questions about Pablo Mari, lob them into the chat. The 300 plus folks joining us tonight, thank you so much. We hope you're super safe and sound no matter where you are in the world. We love and adore you.
Wish you well. Definitely.
We wish you well. Right,
thank you for joining.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some folks already think you're on overtime, Casey, but you're not yet. Tell them, because I actually booked you for an hour tonight. And I say booked loosely. We just go through our agenda.
No, you booked me for an hour, did you? Are you sure about that?
Did I say?
You sure about that? An hour? I'll tell you what. This Sophie time is growing, man.
It's growing. It is growing. But listen, here's the scoop. You mentioned this fella, Super Kev, because I think it's really important. Mr. Adu here, who had a really big impact on signing this player. Let's not argue the connections with Flamenco. Obviously, Mikel Arteta also understanding and knowing from 2016 to 2019, Pablo was part of the Manchester City system, even though he was going out on loan. So he knew of the player. So combined between the 2 of them with their connections in Brazil, and also what Mikel understood about the reporting and the scouting reports from his loan deals, they believed in this player, and they got another steal deal, a little bit like Gabriel Martinelli. So what I want to get from you here, Casey, as much as we kill Arsenal for the deals they make, here we are again in a situation where maybe we found a little gem in the mix.
Well, Sophie, let's mention just 4 of the signings.
You go.
Martinelli, Mari, Gabriel, and Partey. Probably all of these players were needed inside our squad. All of these players were needed inside our squad. without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm seeing people sticking Willian and
They
David
are.
Luiz
I
there.
put them
And
up
this
there
is
for
what
you, super cute.
this is what I will say, Sophie. This is what I will say,
Tell me,
which
bro.
is very important. And I'll get back to Pablo Mari in a bit. Luis came in and he had his ups and downs and he had his bad games. But when it really mattered on winning the trophy, did he stand up? Yes, he did. He was excellent against Manchester City. He was excellent against Chelsea in the final. Put another pot on the side. Great. Nobody questioned him then. Nobody argued about him then. We get Willian for nothing. We get a seasoned professional for nothing. And yeah, it hasn't quite worked out. I get that. But it's still, we didn't have to pay any transfer fee. What is wrong with these Arsenal fans?
Just high wages. That's all.
No, but
it's
listen,
it's a wash. It's
all relevant. It's all relevant.
Yeah,
it is all relevant. If you want, and this is the thing that a lot of these fans don't understand. They can chuck all the names. Oh, we should sign this one. We should sign that one, and they'll cost 50 million. But you still got to find money for the wages.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the packages go like that. So if you've got no transfer fee and you got wages, it's like that. So yeah, it hasn't worked out. And Willian's been awful so far. I get it. I hold my hands up, yes. But there's been no transfer fee.
It's wages.
It's wages. So just relax.
Think about Chelsea right now. They paid transfer fee for Timo Werner and Kai Havertz, and they haven't worked out
and
so
Ziyech.
great. And Ziyech, who's been injured for most of the time, and they only just won an FA Cup game, and everyone's like, oh, they scored and they're doing all this stuff, but the investment that they've made is insane. So KC, you bring up a really great point. A lot of the times getting these deals done on, the free and just paying the wages, it's easier to eat up than having paid a 50 million fee. Which one do you want me to bring up right here?
Darren Sullivan, we may have found.
Wait, Darren Sullivan, let me find this.
Yeah, we get on to Danny in a bit.
This one?
No, it wasn't that one. Hey, Darren, listen, I'm backing you here. So stop that nonsense. I just said Willian hasn't worked out, so don't give me it's been a joke.
Okay.
I've just said that. He said one before about finding some gems in air, but we still have bad apples. Of course we have bad apples. That's why Mikel Arteta's trying to change the culture and trying to get people out.
Wait, is this true? Did we pay? Are you saying, Danny, we paid Willian a 10 million signing on fee as well as, so he was free, but we paid him 10 million and then we gave him the wages?
Sophie, anybody who knows how football contracts work, signing on fee is part of the package. And you don't get it at once, you get it over the term of the contract. Okay?
I like this comment.
So there we go. So people could say, so however you break it down, Sophie, it's the same money. Do you understand what I mean? It's the same money. However you want to split it, it's the same bloody money.
Because if you're giving him, a little bit, Danny's right. A little bit like Ozil with his loyalty bonuses. You just...
so he's on 350, but however you break it up, he might be on 250 a week.
But
wages,
with all the bonuses
with the 100, with the accumulative effect over the contract could be the 100. That's all banged together. So let's say sign a 4-year contract. You get that over 4 years.
Yeah.
You don't get it all up front. You get it over 4 years.
Right.
So it's the same difference.
It is. All right. Well, listen, you guys, that the Highbury squad loves to bring you different kind of content. Our player profile, Emil Smith-Rowe was our first, and we got a really, I was really surprised by the amount of DMs that we got and notes we got from everyone who enjoyed it. There's been thousands who've watched it on YouTube, and we're so grateful for that. And we got a lot of fans, Arsenal fans, who wrote to us saying who they'd like to see next. We did Pablo Mari because he was one of the most popular that people wanted to kind of learn about and see. And what we know about Pablo Mari is that, he started off at Mallorca. He went to a team, an unknown team in Eredivisie, and won the team over Nakbrada, where he was able to be made captain. I gave you the quotes at the beginning of the show where he showed leadership there. We then saw him have an up and down time at Deportivo. He had the opportunity to score a goal where it would have taken Deportivo back to the tippy top of La Liga, and that didn't happen. But from there, he overcame adversity. He went to Flamenco, where he was able to deliver a Copa de Libertadores that they haven't won in years and years and years and years. He became beloved by the fans. They completely adored him. He has a connection with fans. He's one of those kinds of players that you just fall in love with. And then he comes to the Arsenal. And we're now seeing what he has to offer, what Mikel Arteta believed in him. And despite having an injury that really we were all questioning whether or not he'd be the right guy, whether he'd overcome it, he ended up being the guy that we saw in this game against Liverpool on the world stage, where he put Mo Salah in his pocket, and now he's walking the grass of Arsenal training ground, Super Kev, with Bobby Pires and other legends, and we're seeing him have an impact on Arsenal Football Club. Now, we're not saying that he's going to be Tony Adams or Martin Keown yet, Super Kev, but in a nutshell and in a summary for you, what has Pablo Mari shown you so far, and what do you expect from him to come?
I think he's shown quality, he's shown leadership, he showed smarts, he showed that he's a good player, and he's one that can do a job on the pitch for sure. Not many people was asking for him to come into the side, and Mikel Arteta took a chance and put him in, didn't he? And everybody was clamoring for change. Nobody saw this one. He came in, and it's funny. Kieran Tierney seems to be playing his best football with him beside him.
Granit Xhaka even in front of him.
Well,
Crazy.
no, I wouldn't quite go that far.
Come on, Casey, go that far.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, Rob Holding is resurgent again.
Anyone who plays beside him, Rob Holding beside him, Kieran Tierney. Yeah, Granit Xhaka's been okay, but again, do you remember the first half against Brighton? What Granit Xhaka and El Nani were like? My God, they were awful. But second half, they picked it up. And obviously at the weekend, Granit Xhaka came on and done very well, considering that only asked more questions. And that's what we're going to cover in Kev Says. So I don't want to say too much.
We are going to do that. The other thing I want you, we've almost got a 400 strong crowd now, Casey. The chat just keeps on growing. I told you, the later we go, the more people tune in. I think it's just everyone's done eating their shepherd's pie and their beans.
Wait, Sophie, are you trying to tell me there's more? Are you trying to tell me there's more Sophie time now?
No. There's no. All right, Techers, I'll also calm down on Granite. Sure, fine, why not? No, but the final note is Edu and Mikel Arteta recruitment. Some people don't believe in it. You highlighted it at the beginning of the show in terms of the good, the bad, and the ugly. But Pablo Mari is another example, and I've thrown it out there to everyone who they would like us to cover on our next player profile. And one of the number one players that's come up is Kieran Tierney. We know a little bit more about Kieran Tierney, which is why we've highlighted Emile Smith-Rowe and Pablo Mari in our episode 1 and episode 2. But if you look at the recruitment of the club and some of the players that we've got going, KC, the Parties, the Gabriels, the Tierneys, the Martinellis, you know, these players, Pablo Mari's, they're going to be the future going forward. So do you want to give some type of mini shout out or respect to Edu and Mikel in terms of what they've done so far recruiting wise to be able to find a player like Pablo Mari who fits in at Arsenal? Because from a culture wise and a personality wise, it feels like he's one of us.
Well, again, it's the culture. Signing players who are going to enhance the culture. And you know, when you sign players who are good for the culture, do you know what it does? It knocks out the ones who are in there, in the dressing room, with the bad culture, the bad attitude. It knocks them as well. So you're going to get turmoil on the inside because there's professionals who want to do it the right way. And then there's professionals in there who want it to be like a hen house. They want it to be rabble-rousing and everybody doing their own thing. No. What we need is a culture where everybody's going in one way. And with Mikel Arteta starting to oust these guys who weren't going in the same direction. I think that's really important. And when you look at the type of signings he's signed, this is one transfer window, Sophie. He's brought in all that quality. So it's going to come. Obviously, more players will come in, hopefully this month and in the summer. And then we could start to see a resurgence of the culture first. So no matter what team goes out on that pitch, we can trust them that they're going to, one, if they don't play well, we know they're going to scrap and fight. That's one thing we haven't had for a while, and we need that culture back.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, you guys. So that's it for our player profile for this week. Pablo Mari, I think we all agree he's elegant, attributes-wise, KC, and characteristics. Elegant, very good with his feet, superb distribution, good in the air, positionally astute. The cons are definitely that he lacks pace and he's not great one-on-one, but in more situational football, he's definitely going to be the guy that's going to protect that back four. And every team needs that intelligent defensive player. And Pablo Mari definitely is proven to be that. But a lot of fans want to see him play now against Manchester City, or they want to see him play against Chelsea again. They want to see him play, against Manchester United and tested over and over until they can finally decide. But what you see so far is a step in the right direction.
100%. Look, first game, you're not even really match fit, and you play against Chelsea. And he bossed it, and he's only going to get better. Let's be honest. The more he plays, the more he's going to be comfortable around it. And I think one thing that you also need to add to what you mentioned, all the attributes, is a communicator. He's a good communicator.
Very good.
And that is so important at the back because you could see everything. You could see the whole pitch. He could communicate with his midfield, communicate with Rob Holding, communicate with Kieran Tierney, etc. And he's been very good.
So, KC, this is what I asked you a few weeks ago is, can a new player be captain? Gabriel, we talked about Partey, Pablo Mari showing. We don't know yet until this team settles, right? And then once Arteta's got his true team and his guys that he's recruited and he has a team in his image, we're not going to know who that leader of that team is yet. But Pablo Mari, as we've seen in Arsenal history, from the back or in the midfield going forward, some of the best captains we've seen as fans over the years.
Well, one thing I will say, Kieran Tierney's a potential captain. Mari could be a captain type. Partey could be a captain type. Mm-hmm. That's 3 of Mikel Arteta's signings. That ain't a bad thing, is it? And if none of them are captain, the dressing room and the pitch is going to be a lot better because we've got players who are accountable to the performance. That's very important.
Yeah. I think what we have here, though, you guys, is a player who's a good guy, who knows how to play the game. He plays it from an intelligence point of view. He plays it from the perspective of smart football. He's a good football brain. We haven't had that at the back, probably not since Per Mertesacker, which is why someone like Rob Holding has been shining. And yes, hit the like button if you dig us. Why not, right, KC?
Yep,
hit the like button, helps us. If you don't dig us, that's all good. We'll still be friends. You can still listen even if you don't like us and you want to press the dislike button. We're okay with that too. But if you are in chat right now...
if you don't like us, don't hit the dislike button.
Well, why not? Let them.
No, leave it out. Stop it.
Okay, leave it out. If you're in chat right now, hit the like button for us and let us know that you dig the content. we'll bring another player profile to you next week. Everyone's voted in. Kieran Tierney's come up as the #1 vote so far in chat, KC, but we're going to get that rolling on Twitter as well, and see who will be the next player for us to dissect next week. All I know is that we're going to return tomorrow for another live show. Tomorrow, get your pens and paper ready, kids, because here's what your homework is for tomorrow. Legends versus cult heroes. The word legend is bandied around very freely.
Too easy.
Tell them. Can you tell them, Casey?
Too easy. People are legends and they've done nothing. He's a legend. This one's a legend. They've done nothing. So get your pens ready and get your list ready because we're going to go into it tomorrow.
We certainly are. Legend or cult hero, there's a very big difference between maybe, say, someone like Arshavin and Tony Adams. I think you get the picture, right? So let's get rolling. Your legend list versus your cult hero Arsenal list. Get your homework going. Casey and I will be back probably the same time tomorrow. And
Sophie,
then also, yes?
I could see this one getting a bit heated tomorrow. No, a bit heated tomorrow because some are not going to agree with what we agree with.
No, they're not. I think some of the younger folks may think some people are legends, but we may have to put them in their place. Yeah, I'm even spitting thinking of that.
yeah, I know.
Exactly. Look, Grimandi a legend. Yeah, jokesters. No, exactly. Remember, cult hero versus legend, very different. So that should be a fun show tomorrow night. Super Kev returns as well tomorrow with me, and also on Wednesday for his Kevin Says segment. We'll put out the subject matter for
That's
that on
Wednesday.
Be fire. Yep,
That's going to be fire.
That is going to be total fire because he's always going to have a great question to throw at you guys. On Thursday, post Crystal Palace, we have writer, producer Jim Piddock, who has been a lifelong Crystal Palace fan. He's been in a number of movies that you guys have probably seen and loved. And apparently he was just made a lord in England, KC. So we have a lord on the show on Thursday, Lord Jim Piddock.
Lord, is the princess going to show up, is she?
Probably, just because there's a lord on. You know how that goes. And then on Friday, the plan is to have a fan forum show. So make sure you get your videos in and your questions to the hybridSquad@gmail.com. A couple really good ones that have come through already. You can ask whatever you want for us. Make any statement you want. Completely different to Kevin Says segment. You can just say and do whatever you want. There's no subject, no holds barred on that. So that's the agenda for the week. Super Kev, it's been a good one here with Pablo Mari, a player that you and I admire early on and a player that I think we have high hopes for.
Definitely. It's been very good. It's been good delving into his background as well and seeing what type of guy he is, how he's made up, the build of him. And he's a real one, Sophie. He's a real one, that's for sure. He's earned the right.
He definitely has earned the right. And I think that he's earned the right to carry on. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. So many. Thank you so much. Listen, when everyone usually says KC's a legend, but then when the odd Sophie is a legend is thrown in as well, it really helps.
Oh, you are a legend.
My day.
You are a legend. You put me in my place all the time.
And yes, thank you, Kev, for always joining us. Listen, guys, we're going to be back tomorrow. Thank you so much. A really good discussion on Pablo Mari. We're all very hopeful about him. But until then, KC.
Come on, you Gunners.